And a very happy Halloween to one and all. Welcome aboard for the A-Game. Yes, I came somewhat prepared for this holiday, and it's, cheap effects. Got to keep the headphones on. I'm Rob Acampora. Dave Halpern's got his hood as well. I love that. Settled in at the Shared Universe Studios here in New Jersey and ready to do our thing. And to my right, a man who was on just a few months ago. We had a great talk, Michael Ferentino from Love in Reverse. But this time around, I'm very happy, thanks to Mike, who brought in his other cohorts from the band. About time, because I was thinking about it. Andres is probably been about 20 years since we've talked. It's crazy. It's been a long time, my friend.
Right, it's crazy.
I know. Now for Halpern, maybe about a couple of months. I was about to say a week. But our paths cross a lot.
Yeah,
I think I owe you about a dozen bagels, come to think of it. Now that I'm really thinking about it.
Yeah.
I probably do. Well, we are gathered here today not only for Halloween, a very happy Halloween to one and all, but we're also here because the album is now out from Love in Reverse, the first one they've done in many, many years, called I'm an Illusion. We've got a couple of videos to play from the album. And guys, obviously the creative process getting going during this pandemic. I mean, were you guys thinking about doing this before the pandemic?
It's been for a long time before the pandemic, actually. So we were pandemic prepared.
Perfect. How does it feel to have given birth, let's say? Because it's always that great process when you're like, it's out, it's available, and it's available in all places that they can buy music, correct?
Correct.
Very cool. Looking forward to playing some videos. Anders, I'm going right to you here because you, I know, are doing stuff other than music. How did it feel just to be doing music with these guys again?
Well, it is crazy how long ago we started doing this album. I think it was like 6 years ago.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Wow.
Yeah. So, the thing is, it's different when it's a hobby. It's a whole new approach to it when you're not worried about trying to be a rock star anymore. So it's way more fun for me for when it's a hobby. Absolutely. And then, I don't know what actually inspired it. Mike probably had been just doing writing and doing demos as he always does.
Mm-hmm.
Mike, actually, do you remember what sparked this whole thing?
Yeah, actually, I was working on the Bedtime for Robots stuff and starting to get that happening. And I was working on an album that was going to be like a hybrid of Bedtime for Robots, but there was going to be some lyrics in the album. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to do this alone. I should call Karu and see if he'd be into doing this. And then I started sending you songs, and we started realizing this is something different, man. This is Love in Reverse music again. And I think it was around 2014 or 15 we started talking about it. And I gave him the first song from it, which was Way Down, actually, at that time. That was the one thing I had written at that point.
So, Mike, was that the song that kind of just said, you know what? This isn't my little project Bedtime for Robots. This is really... I really do need Anders on this, and then let's get Halpern and let's get this thing going.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the first one I remember getting to a point of a rough mix was, I think, No Way This Time, though, right? I think that was the first one I mixed or something like that.
I think that was the one you mixed first, absolutely. It
kind of kicked off, and it had that sound, and yeah.
Anders, you've been doing a lot of stuff outside of music too, which it sets me up to talk about cinematography. How did you get into that? And it's really become your main line of making a living these days.
Yeah, day job. Oddly enough, I got into it from the music business because we were when we were with Johnny Z, he was our manager,
yeah, absolutely.
He had his own video team back in the day for Megaforce, and at one point he was we were going to do a video for that song Supercar on the first album.
Right.
So we were talking to his video guys, but we for some reason, never came to fruition. But then I just became friends with his video guys. And then kind of like a couple years after that, this guy, Pete Consul, he's a DP. He's a pretty big DP now. And he just randomly, from talking about being interested in film, he just called me up and was like, hey, do you want to work on this short film I'm doing? And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, yeah, whatever, I'll teach you. And just knowing that I was kind of interested in film, he brought me on. And then he kept hiring me on other jobs. And then all of a sudden I was in the business. It's crazy.
It's crazy because there's a website called IMDb, which lists actors, actresses, and behind-the-scenes people. And then I look at your resume, and I'm kind of going, Cinematography, 48. I'm like, wow. I mean, it really has become, this is what you do. And, you know, a lot of interesting projects you've worked on, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, that's 20 years of doing it now. It's crazy. But yeah, I feel fortunate to be able to find another art to kind of totally delve into and kind of learn. It was like weird because it was like also learning a whole new art, because I didn't go to film school. But when I first started doing it, I was like, okay, I'm going to read all the books and watch all the movies that that you should watch. So that was very, inspiring to, find a new thing in life to be into other than just music,
Sure. Now, on the other side of the equation, I go to Mr. Halpern, who has been playing with anybody you can think of. I mean, your resume, I mean, you've been with several acts that have been signed to major labels. You have done some outstanding work, but one does stand out. Ming, there's a photo there of, I want to show off a placard. I mean, I got to show the plaque. I mean, I showed this one when we were on with Mike. I mean, that itself, I mean, you do this work. How did the Bee Gees thing come together with you?
Well, we were recording Words Become Worms, right?
I think it was our first album.
Was it the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first one. It was okay. So we were at Pi Studios recording the record, and Russ Titleman was producing. I had to do all with these guys. He comes in one day, he goes, I think he asked you guys first before he asked me, do you think it would be cool to bring Dave down into the studio to do a song with the Bee Gees? And I think one of you guys said it was all right, right?
I was all right. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. So he asked me to go down there to the studio and record a song with the Bee Gees. And I was like, I was blown away. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
How am I going to sleep tonight? So, yeah, we went in, we did the song. Unfortunately, they weren't there, but the rest of the band was there and everybody involved. And we laid the track down.
I guess that's the only bumper. It's like you really didn't get a chance to interact with Barry, Robin, and Maurice at that point.
No. They weren't there. Their vocals were down already.
Right.
Probably just a scratch vocal. But yeah, they weren't there. But the rest of the band was there, and the producers, and this wonderful studio. I had a great experience for a day.
And all I wanted was 1 degree of separation from my idols, man. And,
well, you got it.
And there you go.
That was an interesting date because it was an introduction into a world that I wasn't used to, of exactly the artist not even being there and the producer pretty much taking the reins of the whole session without the artist even okaying certain rhythms that were being played on the bass or the guitar. It was totally done by production, and then the band, the singers, the brothers would come in after the whole track was already produced.
So now you look at it now in 2020. I mean, what you were doing then is now a little more, I should say, a lot more commonplace today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the way we recorded the drums was very strange too. It was, if you're a drummer, it was very strange. It was one drum at a time.
That is different.
Major separation. He was really wanted the separation of the instruments. So it was the bass drum first and the snare drum. A very weird way of recording that I never did before, but it was interesting.
But Dave, you've always been flexible. I mean, in a sense, because you can play for somebody like John Eddy, who has got now more credibility in Nashville than ever as a songwriter. You can play with, I got to name check the guys from Highway 9 / Mr. Reality / Sam Hill. So you've done sort of the rock pop country thing that way. And then you get these guys, and all three things I just mentioned, very different in style.
Yeah.
You can, you've been able to kind of just, how to just do it and go in there and make it work.
Well, songs are songs. Good songs are good songs. You just kind of play the song, you know, and try to add to the mix as best you can, and try to stay out of everybody's way and let the song come through as best possible.
Right.
Music is music. If we didn't put tags on it, it would just be music.
Right.
It's an expression. And if you look at each style of music that you play as just an individual expression, and you treat it that way, then you can kind of get away with it.
Funny thing is, Dave, you're setting me up for a question with Mike perfectly, because when you say music is music, Mike, your dad was a doo-wop singer. You know, he was doing that style of music. So obviously not that influence comes into Love in Reverse, but being around it, I'm sure your dad was also kind of maybe in that same vein of like, hey, look, good music is good music no matter what genre it is.
Absolutely. And actually it does come into what we do, because a huge part of what we always loved, Andres and I, is harmonies. And
that is true.
Even though we're taking a different approach with the harmonies, it still came from that, you know, being brought up in the 70s with my dad's music. You know, he was playing that stuff for both of us. Andres and I have known each other since kindergarten. So, you know, we were living on the same block here, and my dad's music since we were little kids.
And the strength of melody too, where back in the, you know, those days you could just hum a melody and that's the identifying part of a song as opposed to a riff on guitar.
Also, one thing I noticed when you guys were recording back in the day, it was important. You got great music, but it was important to have the big hook. You always managed to find that hook in your songs, which is not a bad thing. Sometimes I think back in the 90s or even in the 80s, there was that feeling of like, oh, hooks are bad. No, you need the hook. It's that thing that brings the listener to you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the issues that we had, is because although we had a modern sound for the 90s, we also had a very retro approach to that sound. So I think some of the people at our record label and the radio, outside of, you know, great people like yourself that were really behind this band, some of them didn't get it because they were like, you guys aren't doing what Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden are doing. And we're like, we don't want to do what they're doing. We love what they do, but we're not that.
Right.
You know, so that made it difficult, you know.
I'm going to bring out something that I said to Mike when I was interviewing him several months back, and Anders and Dave, you can chime in on this and tell me what you think. When I look at a band like Muse, who hit it huge worldwide, the first time I heard their music, I was thinking, okay, this is Love in Reverse almost 20 years later. I've always been ahead of the curve. I mean, it's when you listen to them stylistically, when you listen to how they put their music out there, it's like there is a Love in Reverse influence. Even if they don't know who the hell you are, it's there. And it's got to feel, in one sense, that feeling of, yeah, we always knew we were ahead of the curve, but wow, we were really ahead of the curve.
I mean, I would say both bands have a Queen influence too. So there's that. If you actually look at the you know, what influences we probably have in common with them, right? Definitely Queen and bands like that. But I mean, I think their album came out in '97 or something like that, but it did take a long time for them to really break. Yeah. True. So
I am with the guys from Love in Reverse here on the A Game. We got a lot of things to do, including have some fun for Halloween. After all, it is Halloween night. Right now, guys, get your drinks in hand. Let's debut one of the videos from the new album. By the way, Ming, if we can put the album cover up, it's called I'm an Illusion, now available wherever you get your favorite music. So go, please purchase some songs, purchase the whole album. You're not going to be disappointed. Here is the first video, No Way This Time, Love in Reverse here on the A Game.
Never had a doubt, need a fight without a knack for magic. No way this time, now I'm on to you, I'm not so blind. No way this time, all your promises will turn to lies. Don't you got me by surprise? It's so funny just to watch you preach it. Don't you realize? Can't convert the ones who know your weakness. No. Don't you have me hypnotized? Your life has always been dramatic. Don't you realize what you're channeling is empty static? No way this time. Now I'm on to you, I'm not surprised. No way this time. 'Cause the evil ways never far behind. And I guarantee you won't get through this time.
From the new album, I'm an Illusion. That is Love in Reverse, and that is No Way This Time here on the A Game. Very happy to fire that up. As a matter of fact, from that album, another song that you probably heard a clip of as we began this thing. Michael, thank you for allowing me to make it sort of the opening theme to this podcast for the last 5-6 months. That's Bella Baby that we talked about, and I got to play that when you were on with me a few months back. This time around, Michael, Andres, Dave, the whole band of Love in Reverse is here on the A Game. We're going to get into random shots. We're just going to have some fun with this. This is sort of like, it is Halloween. I figured that we can just do some, no, I'm not going to go deep diving in everybody's social media. I'm just going to have some fun for Halloween night. Exactly. Take a sip of whatever you got there. Cheers to everybody. And we're going to get into it. So the Halloween theme. And thank you, Ming, for having some beer here because I forgot to bring whiskey, which was bad on my part. But, all right, so I want to go back. I think this is going to set the tone. Ming, the first one, and Michael, your father did this. So give me the costume shot. There we go. Thank your father. Yeah, by the way, that's a great costume. So, I mean, you obviously get into Halloween. When you think back, best costume you ever wore? And then I'll go to Anders and Dave after that.
Best costume I ever wore. Oh, I think I played the character Lane from River's Edge, the one that was played by Crispin Glover back in the day.
I'm impressed. There we go. That's a good one.
That was one of my favorites.
Anders, what comes to mind for you?
Oh, I was always kind of a hater, but always also the worst planner of costumes. But a couple times I've got thrown in. And I think the one that came out the best, which was like complete, I think I showed up to a party, and that's when they figured out a costume for me. And it was Robert Smith. And a couple friends did like the lipstick and the hair, and it was a pretty damn good Robert Smith.
I can see that.
It was great. It was fantastic.
Well done. Dave, what comes to mind for you?
There's two. Of course, the hobo. I was a good hobo. Peter Criss. I was always Peter Criss from Kiss.
You know what?
Nice.
You always wins out. There it is.
That was always a yearly tribute to the person that made it all happen for me when I was 10 years old. So Peter Criss. Nice. I couldn't wait.
All right, I got to play along and go with my embarrassing one. It actually won me a prize in the contest: a pink onesie, like you're going.
Nice.
Oh,
I can see it.
I know you can see it. Sure, I see
it.
I have made sure there are no photos in existence anymore. But that's a story altogether. Random shots with Love in Reverse. Hey, Halloween candy. I mean, favorite candy. Anders.
Candy. Oh,
yeah. Geez. Now you're thinking back, like, when was the last time I had candy? Wait a minute.
No, but I feel like people make fun of candy corns, like they're low rent candy. But I like candy.
That's polarizing candy. Either it's you like it, or it's like the most disgusting thing ever created.
I like them. I do like them.
You're in the minority, but that's okay. Yeah. Dave, what about you?
Reese's peanut butter cups.
Good choice.
The little ones.
Okay. Gotcha. Michael.
Candy always has to be broken up into two things: chocolate and then the sugar stuff. So for chocolate, it's Three Musketeers, 100%.
Okay.
Simple, beautiful. And for sugar candies, it's Smarties, that little
remember those.
That's it, man. Simple stuff.
Yeah, I got a bag full of Twix waiting for me at my apartment. So
That's
you got
That's on the list.
That's on the list. Good stuff.
You can dip them in the peanut butter.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that. You know, all the horror films have been out for like the last few days as you've been, searching television. What horror film is the one that is the must see this time of year, Dave?
Exorcist.
Good one. Can't argue that.
Yeah. That's a scary one.
The triple threat from the guy who did A Christmas Story, Bob Clark. He did 3 amazing horror films that are really unsung. I think they're 3 of the best of all time. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, Death Dream, and Black Christmas. All 3 made in the 70s.
I've seen Black Christmas, so that's a good one, definitely. Anders, what comes to mind?
Does The Shining count? Because I'm not a horror movie person, but I got to go with Kubrick.
Get out of you.
Awesome movie.
Absolutely.
Awesome movie.
That's a classic.
That is, it's a definite classic. It's a definite classic. I always was a fan of the Bruce Campbell films.
Me too. Yeah.
Evil Dead. That was always the thing. And I actually saw one recently because I had interviewed Ernie O'Donnell, God bless him, for 100 Acres of Hell. Highly recommended. Just for the last 10 minutes of that movie.
Sounds good.
Worth it. Yeah. You saw 100 Acres? Oh my God. Good stuff.
I haven't, but it sounds good.
Yeah, you got Dave. Definitely go watch it.
Yeah.
Random shots with love and reverse here in the A game. Okay. It kind of ties to the horror film genre, but it could be anything that happened. First time you're ever scared out of your mind. Mike, what comes to mind?
Seeing Night of the Living Dead when I was 7. My parents let me watch that film.
I'm surprised you're not scarred for life. What are you talking about at 7? Jeez.
I was 7 and I couldn't sleep, man. I was like knocking on their bedroom door.
Right. Oh man. I'm sure they sit there and go, honey, this was probably your dad going, this was not a good idea, I don't think. Somehow this was not a good idea. Honest, was it going back? Was it Nicholson in that movie that really was the first time you're like scared out of your mind?
No, I don't remember scared out of my mind. I do remember we used to watch The Omen at my friend's house, and I do remember like having like at night having to walk back across the street at night and it's actually being like really bugged out because The Omen's all about stuff you don't see, like the devil and and Jesus and shit.
Mythical characters.
By the way, we have another video from Love and Reverse that kind of plays into that a little bit, but we'll get to that later. Dave, what comes to mind for you? First time you were ever
Jaws. Jaws did that for me. Yeah. Jaws kept me out of the ocean for a long time.
You and a lot of other people.
Yeah, that freaked me out, man.
I can remember being a kid and my older cousins are taking me through the Pine Barrens during this time of year. And when you're like 7 years old, you guys know from being around the Jersey Shore and being in the Pine Barrens, that's scary no matter what time of year you go. But it's like
27 years old, and you're scared of the Pine Barrens.
Thank you. Exactly. So picture being a 7-year-old and you're being mocked by your cousins. I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks a lot. You scarred me on that one. Thanks.
No, because when you get older, then you realize what kind of people live out there, and that's scary.
Well, that was where we recorded all our early demos, man, was in the Pine Barrens. So. Right. That had a huge influence on us.
Absolutely. Well, again, you guys are a little dark, so it kind of makes sense a little bit. Hey, listen, with it being Halloween, I know we're doing the social distancing thing, but I want to get your opinion on a couple of photos that I found recently. Now, this is an interesting thing, how they're giving out candy, but they put up a spider's web. Ming, if you can put up the photo on this, get your opinion. If you saw this, would you think this, hey, good idea or bad idea?
I'd say if you take the candy, throw it in a bag, leave it around for a day or two, you're good.
I thought there was
spray it down with
Okay, then you might like this second one. This is a video I took. This is a friend of mine, Jim Coleman, who's out in Howell, New Jersey. He found an interesting way to hand out candy today. Ming, if you can fire up the little video and show the tube that he had set down. Keep in mind, he made this all by himself. I'm stalling because Ming's not got the video ready, I can tell. You ready? Fire it up. He actually had a leaf blower on the other end. He's blowing the candy through.
I like that.
You like
That's pretty fantastic.
Nice delivery system.
Yes. I'm glad I got the seal of approval on that. That's good.
No, I
I
do.
would think the human cannon for candy would be really cool. Shoot the candy out.
You shoot the person to give the candy to. Well, that kind of defeats the whole point of social distancing, but I like the idea of it. I think it would kind of work.
I lock all my doors, turn all the lights off, and if I hear a knock, I go, okay, let's pretend they don't never heard them, and maybe they'll go away.
I had one person come to my house so far, and I live in a community. One person.
Oh, that's sad. That
is sad.
No, but even before the pandemic, it started changing. It was sad, right? Compared to like when we grew up, it was insane.
Man. We started on the walk home from school.
This is
in
true.
our regular clothes, knocking on doors.
Well, I mean, I think we're all about the same age. So when we were going to school, we were allowed to dress up for Halloween. And then literally, like you said, Dave, we could leave the school, go into the neighborhood, and just go crazy for like 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Except for the one year, 1983, when the Tylenol scare happened. Remember that?
I do remember that. Oh,
and they canceled Halloween.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, you couldn't go trick-or-treating that year because everybody was freaked out that people were going to be poisoning candy because Tylenol got poisoned.
Oh, yeah. I do remember.
It was like a one-off situation, but it became like a national freaking
I can remember my parents becoming more like, let me see the candy, and all of a sudden they're just making sure of everything. Of course, my father's taking his favorite candy. He didn't give a crap. He's just like, here, give me it. Oh, it's mine now. Go ahead, have it. I'm like, you ate half the candy, Dad. Thanks a lot, really. Two more things I want to show you here. I mean, obviously, when we were talking about costumes, I think you'll appreciate this. You haven't seen this on social media. This is a mutual friend of ours. Ming, give me the devil.
Matt.
Oh, Matt.
Greenfield from MTV's 120 Minutes, who has got a new show coming out in January, but that may be the costume of the year right now. I mean,
that's fantastic.
I knew you guys would get a kick out of this.
Wow.
I mean,
The detail, man, like he's got like, how did he do that? Like the makeup's got like 2 different like layers of color.
He was saying he had some of the makeup artists from American Horror Story kind of put this thing together for him. I mean,
that makes sense.
It's mind blowing on that one.
I just saw him singing the Motorhead. You guys?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that.
Yeah,
that was incredible.
Amazing.
That was so good.
He actually sounded like Lemmy, man.
Exactly.
Really did.
I mean, that
he
thing
was in the game too. He was so focused.
Yes.
There was a lot of energy going on there. You could tell in his face. He was just there.
He lives, eats, and shits music, man. He knows.
He really does. I'm really happy that thing went viral. I mean, at first I'm sitting there going, "This has got a chance," and then when it exploded, I was like, "Oh my God, way to go, Matt!" I mean, and he's always been this guy who loves to sing. So it's one of those things. Keep that in mind when you're on the road. If you decide to do some shows, maybe in 21 or 22, you know, you may have to call Matt and get him on stage with you guys because you know he'll do it. All right, I got one more semi-scary photo, and it's not as scary as it looks. Ming, there's 4 guys in a row. I want you to put that up there. And the reason I'm doing this is because, Mike, you're GQ here. What the? And by the way, Miles, son, God love you. I know you're very fans of both of these gentlemen. Please come on my podcast. I'm not about groveling. I just did. Mike, I mean, I've never seen you look that. I mean, you're a good looking guy, but I mean, it's like that was like GQ to the max right there where you're at.
You know what? I think it's just the way that shot is because, yes, that was kind of the look during that period. I was wearing a suit on stage every night.
Right.
When we were playing in the UK for that tour. But I guess that was the concept that we had. The Miles Hunt Club, it was called. So we were doing, like, we were in some kind of secret society. That was the idea, right?
Then why do I look like I was kicked out of Creed?
Because we usually...
Guys,
what is that?
You know what? You got a point. I'm sorry.
God.
You actually do have a point. You were kicked out of Creed.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with you 2 guys on the left looking like you were actually members of West Side Story.
I look like,
It was West Side Story versus the more upscale guys, Miles and me.
I know there's a clear delineation. It is funny. I thought it looks like a photoshopped photo, actually.
It does. That's funny.
It's because of the background. I see what you're talking about. It does kind of, but it's like, I think Miles has that look on his face like going, damn, Andres does look like he got thrown out of Creed. Oh my God.
That's one
I'll
of
tell
my-
you what, though, man. As much fun as I ever had with these two guys,
Yeah.
that band was like comedy 24/7 because of the bass player. It was
Oh,
literally like being in a comedy show. It was brilliant.
Now, Andres, you were playing something other than doing keyboard. Were you playing drums for them at one point? Am I right on that?
Yeah, don't tell Dave.
Don't tell.
He's a badass, man. He's a badass.
Well, that's the thing. I should explain. Anders is known more for his keyboard playing, doing some singing. I've never seen him really play the drums. I've heard he has, and I actually came across a photo and I was like, wait a minute, that's him on the drum kit. I'm like,
all right. I'm going to blow some smoke up his ass right now. He actually played most of the guitars on this new album.
oh, wow.
Yeah,
In
we're
fact,
both quitting. We're just going to relinquish.
Yeah, we're just going to let him take over. I'm just going to write songs, throw them at him, and he's just going to do it all.
And Dave, you're going to be sitting in the corner having a drink, right?
Yeah, no. If you need me, I'll be in the corner having a drink and a smoke.
Logistically, when we decided to, do this album this way, which was before all this pandemic shit,
Right.
but we were literally like, we live in different states and we don't really have the luxury of being able to get together.
Right. It's true.
So we decided there was not one day except for some Skype sessions where we were ever in the same room at the same time for this whole record. So I just figured logistically, I'm like, he's an amazing musician. Why don't you just play the instruments? If there's stuff like guitar solos and things like that you want me to do, I'll do those parts. Of course, I'll do the singing bits, but it just made sense logistically to make a record this way.
Let me ask
none of us have the ego where it's like, shit, I got to play the guitar. He's got to play the drums. He's got to play the bass.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Andres. No, go ahead, Andres. Please go ahead.
It's weird because I realize I'm not one of those musicians that misses playing with other musicians live. It's really weird. I'm content just doing it by myself, and I guess that's why it ended up working out this way.
Mm-hmm.
But I have fun. Like when I'm in a band with Dave that we play once in a while, and it's super fun, of course. But in general, I don't find the need to I need to be in a band just so I can play live. It's weird, yeah.
Well, then it brings up two questions, and I'm going to expand upon what you just said, Anders. Do you think more bands are going to be more like, hey, you know what? We really don't need the tour. I mean, it would be nice to do it because when bands are touring, there's more opportunities to make money. We know that because the industry has changed as far as how we're selling albums. It's more of a single-driven business, and, the amounts of money are a lot different than what they were 20 years ago. So the bands that do tour, they're touring partly because they still love to do it, but also because there's money to be made. But can you see less bands saying, you know what? We can do this virtual thing. We can, do it from home and still have some fun and maybe still make a little bit of money. So there's really maybe less of a need to tour.
A little bit of money. Let's really, really accentuate that.
Yeah, there's no.
Slightly, yes. Slightly sarcastic, slightly.
No, but the sad thing is, over the last 15, 20 years, bands had to play live because they weren't making money on record sales anymore, right?
Right, exactly.
And then the pandemic kills that. I think even through next year, they're not bringing back. Dave, have you been gigging?
No, that's not going to happen till way into 21, if that.
So,
I mean, I actually have a ticket to see Kiss in Atlantic City in August of next year. So we'll see if that happens. But from what my friends are telling me, it's not going to happen for a long time, unfortunately. And it's just going to be very different. I heard, that I've heard some stories about very famous venues in Asbury Park that may never open its door again or their doors again. So it's very scary. Really scary.
First off, I'll give props to Scott Stamper and the crew at the St. Asbury Park, New Jersey. Our friends here at A Shared Universe have been very supportive of what they're trying to do. And they're one of many, many venues of small size that are finding that surviving this pandemic is going to be very, very difficult. They've already had a big fund drive. They managed to raise $50,000, which I think was great by everybody's generosity. Dave, I know you saw that online and what people have done. But even that 50 grand wasn't enough. They're trying to get more help. So if 50 grand's not going to be enough, what is that number? And how does that affect potential bigger venues? I will mention the legendary Stone Pony because that is such an iconic venue that everybody in the United States knows. Yeah. Could you imagine them not opening up? I can't see it. But like you're saying, Dave, if this goes longer, you don't know what could happen.
It's going to change the whole landscape, not just music, but art in general. You know, restaurants.
Yeah.
Any kind of creative situation is going to be, you know, beyond that. You know, it's just we don't know what's happening yet. So very, very exciting times, let's say, to see how we're going to adapt to what's going on.
And then throw in the exponential growth of technology. I mean, we're at that place they call the singularity pretty much now, where all of these technological advances are starting to come together between, you know, never mind the medicine, but like genetics and nanotechnology, but robotics, AI, and obviously all this digital technology where we can do shit like this that was unheard of at one point.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the idea that Andre Sayer and Dave are on 3 different states and making an album, you know, that we never were in the same room at the same time. We're making videos that way. We made the Bella Baby video that way. Literally before this pandemic, each one of us shot our bits in different states and then put it all together, and it's like we're all hanging out. You know what I mean?
To give props on that, Michael's in Florida. Anders, you're out in Queens, New York, and Dave, you're down just outside the Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it really does kind of give you a real perspective of what you just said, Michael, which will segue into one last question. Is this technology sort of maybe this is going to be the new way that maybe you don't need to be in a recording studio to do great work, that you can do it this way, and we're going to see more, say, like guerrilla ways of recording music? Or is it once we get back to normal, we're going to go back to where we were?
Man, you do not need to be in a recording studio. I record all my Bedtime for Robots music on an iPad in my living room and my garage.
Amen.
And that's it. It's all done on a little tiny piece of material like this.
We could turn to the most successful example is Billie Eilish. You know, in their parents' bedroom, they did all that stuff. I mean, come on.
Well said.
And it's an amazing record, man. Amazing record.
Won every Grammy, won every award.
And absolutely deserved every bit that it got.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like, it's still always an option is nice, because I still hear sound. I hear, you know, newer albums where there's like a drum sound where you could tell there was like a nice room that the drums were recorded in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll ever go away, but you definitely don't have to do it in a studio. No way.
Right.
But not even just a studio. I mean, a lot of people just record like drums in their living room and get a good sound. And nowadays with technology, you could also take that okay sound with drums, samples, and make it an amazing sound.
I'll give you a great example. I'm working on a new solo record. It was really stripped down. I sent it to Andres, and he took it and beefed it up with all kinds of great sounding instruments.
Wow.
And it took it to a whole nother level just by having a great drum sound in a big room. You know what I mean? And I mean, I was happy with what I had before, but it's like 10 times better when you have, you know, some influence of some real, you know.
Right.
You can dial up rooms nowadays, even in those applications that they, it's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
It's just, too much for me to even comprehend.
I think it defends one thing, and I'm opening up a scab for this last part only because there's a great quote that came out of it. Back in the day, you did the ABC thing, Turning Point, which so you want to be a rock and roll star. Not exactly the best thing to bring up, but if there is one positive I can take out of this, Mike, I wrote the quote down. You said it at the end, and it kind of rings true today for all three of you. Mike said, I know I will always be doing music, whether I am on a label or not on a record label. I'll be doing it, and I'll still be knocking on everyone else's door. You are, without question.
Now it's virtual doors. Now you have Spotify.
Yeah, see, there it is. You know, there are different doors now. There were so many different doors that were not available in the 90s, especially with, like we just said, all the technology. If this technology was available, let's say back in the 90s, and you guys were on the cutting edge of a lot of stuff doing music, you probably wouldn't even needed a label. You would have been like, no problem. We'll do it our own. We got it. No problem.
I see the future as the new rock star is the guy who's a cinematographer making music on the side, guy who's a lawyer making music on the side. You know, the new rock star has a day job but makes art because they love to make art. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be a different, way of doing things. I don't think we're going to go back the way it was ever again.
I don't think so either.
I think the days of Mick Jagger and David Bowie, as much as I love that stuff and sometimes long for it, that's over, man. That's a different era.
Interesting way to go out, and a very interesting point to bring up. All three of you guys, Mike Ferentino, Andres Karu, Dave Halpern. This is Love in Reverse, guys. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate getting all three of you together. It's been way too long. Mike, I know I owe you a trip to Florida. Andres, you're in Queens. Once this pandemic alleviates, we do have to hook up. And Dave, I owe you bagels. I've been owing you for 2 years. I will pay you back.
We love bagels.
Oh, you guys can bring them down here because we have the shittiest bagels and pizza ever.
Yeah, we may have to put a trip just to get him a real bagel again. Maybe if we can put up the album cover again, because it's available on all musical platforms. This is the new album, Love in Reverse, I'm an Illusion. Go out, buy it, enjoy it. A lot of great music on here. To wrap up this, let's say, Halloween happy hour, this is sort of the perfect way to wrap it up, because this video may not be for the faint of heart. I'm being honest about it.
Hey, can I just plug something on this?
Oh,
my wife, Jennifer Ferentino, is the most brains behind both of those videos that you played tonight.
Okay.
I was involved in it, but it's really her production. She's really great with editing and like kind of putting that whole vibe together. You know what I mean? We work on this stuff together, but I got to give it. It's mostly her doing the video.
I give her a lot of credit because there's a definite vibe going on here. The title of the song is "Glam of God," so you kind of get an idea what you're about to get in for. And on a Halloween night, you need to be a little scared. So you know what? You've been warned. With that being said, guys, I look forward to seeing you guys at some point. Thanks for coming on here. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, man. We love you, man. Thank you so much for all your support.
Absolutely. Hey, that's a wrap for the A Game, which is coming up. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Anders. Thank you, Mike. I'm back next Saturday with John Ross, the CEO of Ross Brewing Company. We'll drink beer and talk a lot about the brewing industry. In the meantime, to wrap up the A Game one more time, this is Love in Reverse. This is Glamour of God.
Happy Halloween.